My name is Anastasia Taylor Lind. I'm a British photojournalist and have been working in Ukraine for the last year since the Russian invasion of the country in February 2022. I was at home in London on February the 24th when Russia invaded Ukraine. The next day I made my way to the border and I spent the first week of the war making portraits of some of the, in the end, more than 6 million civilians who were fleeing Ukraine for neighboring European countries. It was almost unbelievable to see hundreds of thousands of women and children walking on foot in the middle of the winter across the border into Poland. It's really hard to imagine excruciating cold. You know, the sort that pains your hands so it feels like someone's driving needles underneath your fingernails. I was working in Dnipro in December during blackouts and was so struck by the strangeness of a large city in utter darkness. I've experienced darkness out in nature, but the very debilitating effects of having no power in a big city was disturbing. You can't see where the road starts or the pavement begins, and there's no traffic signals for cars. It takes a great deal of effort, and usually that effort is inadequate, to imagine what it might be like if that was the situation here in this apartment, my home. What would happen if, the neighboring 8 apartments had been destroyed in a missile strike and collapsed? And I had to carry water up 4 flights of stairs and build a small stove inside my living room and knock a hole in the wall or take out a pane of glass so a chimney flue could be put in. Ukraine as a country and as a society have just been battered in this last year. I mean, we as journalists don't even know the extent of the death toll, of the damage to infrastructure. Even though I'm there, I still know that I can't really comprehend this level of violence and this level of aggression against a whole country. All of my friends are exhausted. Just utterly exhausted, tired of all of this, depressed, unable to make plans for the future. This year I'll finish my master's in poetry. This year I'll keep working as a journalist and spend most of my time in Ukraine. There is a long list of things that I know will happen this year. And that's just impossible for Ukrainians. You can't plan beyond a day, often cases, because nobody knows what will happen, collectively, but also individually. When do you finish university? When do you decide to have kids? What about starting a new business? All of those things that seem so ordinary. Planning becomes impossible. Additionally, when families are so fractured, I don't think I know anyone whose family unit remains together since the war began. The Courics are a young family that I've been photographing since 2018. After I met them in a small suburb of Donetsk city called Avdiivka. Olya described to us her last days at home with the kids. There was heavy shelling and she got the kids and she took an evacuation bus out of Avdiivka. Her husband Nikolai stayed and then he volunteered to join the Ukrainian army. When we went to visit them in the summer, they were staying in a spare room of Olya's niece. She was sleeping on one sofa bed with the two kids. And at that point, they had already made the decision that they probably weren't ever going to be able to go back to Avdiivka. So they bought a very small cottage in the village with her mother-in-law and her mother-in-law's savings. Completely sort of run down and uninhabitable. I saw them again in mid-December, and then Olya and the two kids were living in one room of the house, which they hope to continue renovating. The kids are in school. Kirill, he's in kindergarten, and Miroslava is like a super serious and dedicated student in primary school. Yeah, it's such a privilege, especially with the kids, to see them grow up, to see them so engaged at school, and to have so much hope for them for the future. Despite the fact that both Kirill and Miroslava have never known peace in their wartime. They were both born after the war started in 2014, but I hope have bright futures.